So, I'm just browsing Reddit, right? Just killing some time while looking at some interesting baseball facts. Then I see this. On May 25th, 2019, the Washington Nationals had a 0.1% chance to win the pennant. This was on Reddit before the World Series had ended. I was taken back a little by this stat. This wasn't posted by some random site. This was posted by the official MLB Stats account. I know little about stats, but in my opinion, these guys seem pretty legit. So I sat there and thought, that's a really incredible story. Similar to Leicester City a few years back. Wait a minute, I can make a video revolving around this stat. So, from that day on, I was rooting for the Nationals to win it all. And wouldn't you know it, they won it all. And that is how ideas for videos come about. But seriously, 0.1%? That is a crazy number. In the same way that Leicester City had a 5,000 to 1 chance to win the Premier League. Even more staggering, the Nationals had 0.1% chance to win the pennant, not the World Series. Meaning there was an even less chance for the Nationals to win the World Series. And it showed even when they did make the World Series. The Astros had the best odds of any World Series competitor since 2007. So, it has become my mission to ingrain this stat in baseball fans' minds, the same way that 5,000 to 1 is ingrained in soccer fans' minds. How did this team win the World Series and have this moment? Well, all I have to say is that it is a pretty great story. Let's start by looking at this table. From 2012 to 2018, the Nationals had winning records in every single season, including 4 90-win seasons. I like to call this the Bryce Harper Era. In 2011, Harper was ranked the second best prospect in the league, only behind Mike Trout. So essentially, he was the #1 prospect as Trout is in a league of his own. Harper then became the Rookie of the Year in 2012. There was hope circulating through the nation's capital. The Nationals may have lost to the Cardinals in the division series, but fans were still very optimistic, and 20-year-old Bryce Harper was the key to everything. However, things went very wrong. 2013, the team misses the playoffs. 2014, the team comes back with a strong season, finishing 96 and 66, the best record in the National League, but lost to the San Francisco Giants in 4 games. 2015, the worst season in the Bryce Harper era thus far, as the team barely finishes above 500 and misses the playoffs. 2016, the team comes back once again as they finish with a 95 and 67 record, but lost to the Dodgers in the NLDS. 2017, they finished with an even better record, but once again, they lost in the NLDS to the Cubs. 2018, the final year before Harper tests free agency. The Nationals have brought in lots of players during this era, many elite players. Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Trey Turner, Anthony Rendon, Daniel Murphy, Gio Gonzalez, Greg Holland, Kelvin Herrera, and many more players. The team finishes with their worst record in the Bryce Harper era, with an 82 and 80 record. Clearly, by this point, this team was not going to win anytime soon. At least, they weren't in Bryce Harper's mind, because at the end of February 2019, he signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. The era had ended, the team had lost their superstar. But 2019 was the start of something new. Looking at the betting odds on opening day, the Nationals still had very good odds to win the World Series. The pitching staff was still headlined by Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg, along with new signing Patrick Corbin, great hitters like Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner, Ryan Zimmerman, and of course the new kid in town, Juan Soto, still had great expectations set upon them. The first month of the season was not great for the team, as they finished March and April with a 12 and 16 record, placing them 4th in the NL East. By May 25th, the Nationals had a record of 21 and 31. With so many shortcomings, the 0.1% figure definitely seemed plausible at the time. But then, something changed. The Nationals, despite being in the competitive NL East, were showing signs of life. From the beginning of June to the All-Star break, the Nationals went from 25 and 33 to 47 and 42. They were now only 6 games behind first place. Where their fortunes really turned was in the month of August. The team started August with a 58 and 51 record, and finished the month with a 76 and 58 record. Let's just skip to the end of the season. The Nationals are now sitting in second place with a 93-69 record and a wildcard berth. When you look at the stats of individual players, it's clear to see the strengths of this team. Clutch hitting and great starting pitching. The lineup had many key bats that stepped up this season, like Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, and Adam Eaton. But the bench also had many big bats like Howie Kendrick, Gerardo Parra, Kurt Suzuki, Asdrubal Cabrera, and Ryan Zimmerman. Moving to the pitchers, this rotation was outstanding. The stats speak for themselves, really. Alright, now the Nationals are in the wildcard game. Nationals versus a Christian Yelich-less Brewers. Gotta be honest, I think the Nationals got a bit lucky here. This was the most lucky they were in the entire playoffs, at least. But at the same time, it was still a clutch moment. I don't want to spend too much time on this game because it wasn't very exciting outside of this moment, but Juan Soto's go-ahead double foreshadowed the Nationals' entire postseason run. Now we go to the division series, Nats versus Dodgers. Yet again, when you look at individual stats, you wonder how the Nats won this series. Well, the pitching was never going to be a problem, and the bats came clutch when it mattered. I know I'm basically reiterating what I've said before, but this team has been clutch when it matters. Game 1, the Nationals were just bad. They had 2 hits in the entire game. That's all that needs to be said. Game 2 was a lot better for the Nats. They had 10 hits and Strasburg pitched a gem. Game 3, this just wasn't Patrick Corbin's series. He lost Game 1 and gave up 6 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and the Nats lost 10-4 in Game 3. Game 4, very similar to Game 2, a great start from a great pitcher, and the bats woke up. Now Game 5, keep in mind the Dodgers had the best record of any team in the National League. They should have swept the Nationals realistically. What happened? Playoff Kershaw happened. Walker Buehler pitched a great game like he did in Game 1, but he can't pitch the entire game, especially after throwing 117 pitches. So the game was given to Clayton Kershaw, and just like that, the bats came alive, specifically Rendon and Soto, just like in the regular season. And then of course, this moment.
This is deep to center field. Bellinger's back, it's a grand slam! Howie Kendrick!
And just like that, the Nationals defeated the Dodgers, a World Series favorite for many people. Alright, now let's head to the NLCS. To characterize this series, the Nationals have a very good starting rotation. Nationals pitchers held the Cardinals to only 6 runs in 4 games. 4 of those runs were in Game 4. Just look at the pitcher's stats. The only starter that gave up runs was Patrick Corbin, who we know at this point was having a pretty bad postseason. Juan Soto was kept relatively quiet during the series, so Anthony Rendon had to pick up the slack. And he did that and then some, going 5 for 12 in those 4 games. Howie Kendrick, Trey Turner, and Victor Robles all stepped up as well. There's not much to talk about in this series. The Cardinals were silenced by Nats pitching. That's what happened. Now we head to the World Series, Nationals versus Astros. As stated before, the Astros had the best odds of any World Series favorite since 2007. The Astros have been the pinnacle of baseball excellence the past few years. They've won a World Series already, and they've upgraded since then, hardly losing any talent. The rotation contained a 3-headed monster with Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and Zach Greinke. Well, as we've already established, the Nationals also have great pitchers. However, the key difference was the offense. The Nationals had one of the best offenses in the league, led by Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, and so many more players. But enough about the players, let's get into the games. Games 1 and 2, the Nationals won both games on the road. One close win and one in convincing fashion. The bats came alive and Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg both pitched great games. This was the dream start for the Nationals. Games 3 and 4, the Astros win both games in convincing fashion, as the Nationals do not have their best pitchers available and their bats disappear. Granted, the team did have 9 hits in Game 3, but didn't score, so it doesn't matter. Game 5 was more of the same. The bats were not there for the Nationals. It seemed like the fairy tale was coming to an end. Even if it did end on Game 6, it is still quite the accomplishment for the Nationals to go from virtually no chance of making the World Series to almost winning it against the Astros. That would have been quite the accomplishment. Clearly, that was not enough for the Nationals. Game 6, the Nats fell behind early in the first inning, but they climbed back in the 5th inning as Adam Eaton and Juan Soto both hit home runs off of Justin Verlander to take the lead. Luckily, some bad umpiring was forgotten about in the 7th inning, as Anthony Rendon was able to capitalize and extend the lead even more. Oh yeah, and Steven Strasburg pitched 8 in the 3rd innings. He was the MVP of this game. The Nationals had come back into the series, and Dave Martinez fired them up after his ejection. Game 7 was going to be quite the matchup. The 2 starters for Game 7, Max Scherzer and Zach Greinke, a true pitcher's duel. The Astros had the lead for the majority of the game, as Greinke was on point this game. However, after giving up a home run to Anthony Rendon, Greinke was taken out of the game for Will Harris. Well, we know how this went.
76 against him. That's down the right field line into the corner. This ball is gone for a home run!
Honestly, just give Howie Kendrick a statue. Here, I'll do it. Take this bobblehead, put a Nationals hat on it, and boom, you have a statue. And he completely deserves it. 2 big hits in the most decisive of games. And the Nationals piled on some more runs in the 8th and 9th inning. The Astros left 10 runners on base this game. They just never capitalized. But if there is one thing we've learned from the Nationals in this video, it's that you can never count them out. They always came through when it was down to the wire, when it mattered most. And that's how you win a championship.
3-2. There it is! The Washington Nationals are world champions!
Alright, enough of the dramatic music. But really, I can't stress enough how incredible this story is. I mean, 2 months into the season, this team was essentially counted out of the playoff conversation. But they somehow came back. They always came back when it mattered most. If there is a life lesson to take from this story, I suppose it's no matter how small hope may seem to be, understand that hope is still there. It's not over until it's really over. It was my mission in this video to ingrain 0.1% into your mind. I hope I've done that. Thanks for watching.